I did bring a yellow notepad because I'm sure you're going to ask a lot of questions, and I may not have all the answers, so I'll be jotting down the questions that I can't help you with up here.
Well, we'll just, I think this goes without saying, but Ms. Monroe, we'll go ahead and put this on action as well. So, because I think we'll have questions tonight. And I, for one, got a document today that I haven't had a chance to look at. And that's the one I was really waiting on. So I'm not really ready for tonight anyway on that. So we'll be on action so you can answer questions today. You can ask questions all week, and then we'll reconvene next week and have even a little further discussion about it before we go forward.
Yes, and we do appreciate any consideration. We did open the bids Thursday, late afternoon, almost evening, and we had Friday and today. Actually, we lost power on Friday, so our apologies, and certainly we do want to get you this information as quickly as we can. Without further ado, we did receive bids October 2nd. 8 bids were received. The apparent low bidder was lowest responsive bid was provided by Beam Construction Company. Their base bid was $15,776,900. The amount that we're recommending as an award includes some bid alternates. So that amount is $15,884,200. So the sheet that was just handed out is what I'd really like to follow, and we'll go down that list. So we had really good participation, 8 bidders. The range between the bids was nice and tight, which really says that that reflects the market conditions as of October 2014. The building, so we have some breakout pricing. The building only, removing the site work, is $13,204,729. That translates to $147.70 a square foot. The building and site is $15,507,700. That translates to $173.46 a square foot. That does not include...
Are you doing square foot of the building, or are you using square foot of
the square foot cost project?
Per the size of the building, or per
the size of the building.
Okay. Which is how big again?
It's 89,737 square feet. And so one of the allowances is, well, there are several allowances, and I'll go through that. We weren't counting the allowances in these costs. The allowances may or may not be spent. So you go by the building and you go by the site. The bid alternates that we were recommending, which is that number 6 item, is bid alternate number 2, which was glazed wall tile, and that cost was $66,800. Bid alternate number 3 was LED lighting.
Dave, I don't want to interrupt you, but I will. On B, the alternate, the glazed wall, you've got BBC provided. Is that Beam Construction? Where's the second B come from?
It is Beam Construction Company.
Okay, so BCC. Okay, I wanted to make sure I was following you there. Go ahead.
Okay. And that, so the LED lighting was at $40,500. And the bid alternate number 6 was train equipment. That was a no charge or $0 item. So to help with perspective, again, if we're comparing against $173.46 a square foot, looking at regional cost, you can see some 2013 data that includes the region just to the north of us, and that was showing a median cost of $241.32 a square foot, and that was for 2013 data. That was not that did not go into today's dollars. For North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, 2013 data, median cost $172.24. So when you put that to today's dollars, it would be higher. NCDPI had reported 3 schools, elementary schools, were built in North Carolina, and their cost on bid day was $227, $173, and $165 a square foot. If you add escalation from the time that was bid to today's dollars, that translates to $236 a square foot, $182 a square foot, and $174 a square foot. Again, the Odell price, which included some off-site work, and the base bid in site came in at $173.46. So that price is lower than all of those other costs.
How big were
we
those
looked at.
schools then?
I'd have to look at. I'm sorry. I'd have to look at the square footages in the spreadsheets.
I guess that would give you a truer picture if it was a comparable size building or not.
Yeah, from well, it's. I may be able to. I think I have it, but I'm not finding it.
Yeah, just get it to us.
Okay. Okay, so moving on to funds needed. To use only the construction dollars and to use only the construction account, we would need just to be able to award this as recommended, it'd be $2,587,666. That was number one. If you go to number three, we need contingencies for this size project. Right now, in allowances that I would consider contingencies, we have $157,200 in it. That is less than 1%. We would want to have at least 3%. 3% is $476,526. And that's of the recommended award. So the difference there is $319,326. So if you add the amount of additional for contingencies plus the amount we needed for construction dollars, it's $2.9 million. So I can go down the bid alternates and go into detail about what those are and what the recommendations were, and stop me if this is diving down too far. But bid alternate number one was a geothermal bid alternate. Beam Construction Company provided a price of $651,800. At this price, the payback won't be achieved until year 29. And that is making some assumptions on the financing. So that's something we can cover in a bit. But we weren't recommending it at that price. We have talked to the bidder. As you know, this project is overbid, is over budget. And so we have talked to the contractor to see if they can improve on that price. Have received a favorable response, but it isn't where we need it to be. We think that we're down to maybe a payback of about 24 years. Again, that's with the assumptions on the financing. So can that be improved still? We hope so. Will it get to where we really want it to be? That one's very questionable. Bid alternate number two, add glazed wall tile. We are recommending acceptance of this. The price was $66,800. The anticipated savings, there is anticipated savings for this, even though it wasn't just an item for savings, but it does increase the aesthetics, increase the durability and cleanliness of the walls. If we just look at just the area of the wall tile that would be added per this bid alternate, we would expect a savings in painting of $22,000. That's over the life of 30 years, so that's a little bit of a iffy kind of calculation. However, what the wainscot is going to be 5 foot high minimum throughout all the corridors. In some areas, it's going to be higher. What we hope is that there will be, in many cases, we won't need to paint. Typically, in an elementary school, you're really looking at painting. The need for painting is because of what happens at 5 feet and below, with the kids with hands on the walls, feet on the wall, things like that. So above that area certainly doesn't get too much scuffing and things like that. So it could be that we took a very conservative cost savings of $22,000 just to replace the exact area where the tile is. It could be that that savings would be a great deal higher.
Let me stop you for a minute. I understand when you were talking about the wainscoting concept of the paint. Are you saying the same thing with this tile, that you would wainscot up like 6 feet with the glazed tile and then go back with the regular CMU?
The glazed tile is a minimum of 5 feet high off the
Right.
floor, so it's from the floor up 5 feet. And in some areas, it's higher than that. And that it covers all of the corridors.
Okay, and then you would go paint above that level?
That's correct.
Okay, so this would just be at the, where the students and where people would access the walls most of the
That's
time?
right. That's right.
Okay.
So hopefully, we find that we don't have to paint for many years longer, than the normal need, which is probably a 5-year, cycle is what we should be on.
Well, if you didn't do this, what would you put in place of that?
It's the base bid, so there would be no add cost, and it's just painted drywall.
Okay.
In some areas, there's
Some of the CMU.
CMU. Yeah.
Do we have that elsewhere? I'm sorry, do we have that in other schools? Do we have the glazed
I have seen it in.
wall tile elsewhere?
I'm not thinking of any. No. I've seen it in as artwork and things like that in specific display areas, but I haven't seen it used like this.
What kind of maintenance and upkeep? Excuse me. What kind of maintenance and upkeep is that on that, though? If you haven't seen it anywhere else, so how do we know we won't have any maintenance or upkeep on that?
Yeah, it's minimal. It's minimal.
Would it be as much as paint, though? I mean, wouldn't you have to clean it? Because the little sticky hands, they can do damage to that too.
Certainly, and as you clean a wall, as we need to clean walls now, we would be cleaning these walls, but these would be glazed tile, so it'd be easier to clean.
Could they crack? Could they break? Could they crack? Would we have to replace them? What would it cost to replace them? Do you know of schools that's had this? What kind of problems have they had?
Okay, certainly things can happen. Certainly cracks can occur. So I would expect that the durability is going to be good, that the occasional crack could happen. Tile replacement can happen, and I think I may have lost track of the questions after that, but
Well, I tell you what, I'll jump in. You said you haven't seen it,
Oh,
but you mean you
not in
haven't seen it
this
in this district. You've
Correct.
seen it before.
yes, I'm sorry, yes, that is true.
Does that make sense, the glazed tile? We don't have it, but he has seen it.
I would like some, if I could get data on it, though, I'd like some more data on it before I say, yeah, this is great.
Okay. Well, I've got something I want to mention on that too, but Dr. Phillips, I think, was trying to key up a minute ago.
That was the exact same question I was going to ask about whether we had it at other schools, because then I could go and look at the other schools and go, and compare it to ones that we don't have it. But if we don't have it in any of our newer elementary schools, and we're already have to ask for a couple $1 million that we originally asked for and didn't get, I'm reluctant to add anything extra.
Can I make it?
Go right ahead, Mr. Shoemaker.
This type of glazed tile you would find in hospitals and other large facilities that have a lot of people in them? Is that what you would normally see?
I'm certain that it is in many different applications, yes. I won't say that it is common in any one of them. There's nothing really uncommon about it. I've seen it in many schools, and it's really just a preference. It certainly can help this school look like an elementary school with the aesthetics and the color patterns that are proposed. So that's certainly a good thing. It certainly does not look like an office building when you walk in. But the idea is for increased durability, increased cleanability, and to reduce maintenance costs over time.
Okay, go on to C. And
Sure. So bid alternate number 3 was to change the classroom lighting to LED. This award is recommended. Certainly, this is to provide energy and operating savings, cost savings over the life of the system. Beam Construction provided a price of $40,500. The payback is anticipated to be between 6 and 8 years. The life of that system should be 10 to 20 years.
And the life of that system, when you say the life of it, you're talking about the actual LED lighting themselves? How long will they last? Are they 100,000 hour rating?
You do have, with LED lighting, you do have probably a 75% replacement cost after 10 to 20 years, and that would be the board and let's see, I can come up with it. But you should anticipate that there will be a 75% replacement cost after 10 to 20 years.
But you will see a reduction in actual maintenance visits before that time arises. So you're not looking at lights that will die out after 2,000 hours.
Correct.
Or
Yeah, I'm not
less than
thinking
about a year and a half of wear.
I'm not thinking of any maintenance visits, to the lighting system during that time.
If I may, I vaguely recall when several of us newbies got on the board, we were having a discussion about upgrading the lighting in many of the facilities around Cabarrus, and I believe we were upgrading the old style lights to LED. Is that correct?
No, we were taking T12s and making them T8s.
Thank you for that technical explanation. So, but this changes the T8 classroom lightings to LED?
This is a step beyond.
Okay.
The T12s you can't get anymore. They don't make the ballasts
Correct.
anymore.
Okay.
So T8's kind of now the base standard. So
Gotcha.
this would be going. We do have LED lights on the stage at Central Cabarrus High School. If you've ever been there or been to a show or something, I'm sure we have a more. I guess that's the only one I know of off the top of my head of somewhere in our district that we have LED lighting.
I think that's it. We've been looking at some other opportunities. We did do a classroom as a test to see how that looked, how we liked it.
When we went to the school at District 6, most of the lighting in that building was LED.
Okay. So bid alternate number 4 is for phase loss protection, and this is one of those items that the maintenance department certainly would want. However, we aren't recommending it. It kind of goes to well, this is an item that is similar to purchasing lightning protection, and if the district it should occur less than a building would experience a lightning strike. However, if in this area we seem to be experiencing, more of these issues, then really we should be, and that's why it's on here as a bid alternate. What we're trying to look at is if this is a district-wide issue and it's a common issue, we probably will be bringing back to you a budget request that might be trying to deal with the whole district, all the schools instead of just this one. So that's one that we may be coming back to you, and trying to deal with, the big picture approach. And we weren't recommending this at this time. Really, it just goes to, we're over budget. We have a lot of needs, and it's hard to justify trying to recommend all of these bid alternates. Bid alternate number 6 is owner preferred vendor and HVAC equipment. We're recommending this. This is a no-cost change. and it provides consistency in materials, parts, repairs, software. Bid alternate number 7, it goes back to similar to the phase loss protection, kind of the same thing. This is a 10-year warranty for all HVAC equipment, parts, labor, and controls. Certainly, we would love to recommend award of this. The price provided by Beam was $295,800. This kind of goes back to, we've got money, or if we had money, is this how we want to spend it? We've got a great many needs that we need to address. Do we want to tie our money up into this for something in the future when we have current needs to address? And for that reason, we weren't recommending it at this time. But again, the maintenance department would love it if this could be part of the contract. Bid alternate number 8, 9, and 10 were all deduct alternates. The purpose of those was really to provide some opportunity for some reduction in costs to help award the project. And however, the pricing received wasn't such that we wanted to pursue. Bid alternate number 8 was replace VCT with sealed concrete. The price that was received was only $6,000. We felt it should have been much higher than that, so we don't see the value. Bid alternate number 9 was to delete the gym bleachers. Again, just trying to get it so that a reduction in price so that we can award the contract. But in keeping the bleachers, it helps accommodate community use of the facility. So we're not recommending it for that purpose, for that reason. And bid alternate number 10, delete outdoor basketball court. Really, it's the same thing. Keeping the basketball courts allows for the school use and better community use of the facility. And I have to get a drink.
Okay. Go right ahead.
So really, I'll be happy to try to answer any of the questions that you may have. I'm sure you have, you possibly could have many. So.
Okay. Well, instead of doing rapid fire, we'll do normal and we'll start with Dr. Phillips.
Okay, so let's start at the top. So the site cost of $2.3 million. What's included in that? Because that strikes me, for a place where we already have had a school, a lot of money, because they can't be moving a lot of dirt around.
Well, it does include grading, so that definitely is part of it. It is all of the grading. It's the parking lots, it's the drives, it's sidewalks. It's also off-site work to include the road improvements at Odell School Road.
Okay, and can you maybe elaborate a little bit for everyone what those road improvements are? Because I know you've been talking with DOT, and one of the things they were trying to get you to do was to put a rotary, sorry, that's New England term, a traffic circle on Highway 73, which when I think about it, I just go, oh my goodness, that will not make us popular. So where do we stand on what road improvements we're doing?
So it is the road improvements to Odell School Road. So that will be the introduction of a left turn lane into the school. It will also be a right turn deceleration lane into the school, and both of those are at the bus entrance, which is at the southern part of the property line. So that's Odell School Road. So Highway 73, that one's still up in the air. Currently, we are pursuing a traffic circle roundabout, and but that's not finalized yet. We are trying to get participation from other folks in the area and other agencies, and so that's not finalized.
Okay, so does the bid, what you asked them to bid on, did it include the cost of a traffic circle?
It does not.
Okay. It just includes the cost of taking this
the
new road
to-
up to 73.
Yes, what it does is it goes very close to where the traffic circle is envisioned to be and then it stops. What you'll have for the short term is it includes a gravel road that will be drivable, and traffic can use it, and we can use it between January, February, March, April, May, June of that first school year. So it will be of that quality that it will last, through the first half year. And that goes all the way to Highway 73.
All right, and what does the site work also include ball fields? And if
Yes.
so, what do we get?
It includes landscaping and includes ball fields. The ball fields, it's a soccer field, and it is a softball field.
Okay, that's all the questions I have for now.
Okay, before we go to Mr. Harrison, I want to go back to the Rotary. I liked that term. You said we're pursuing. We're pursuing, or we're being asked to pursue by DOT? I think it's important that we clarify what we're doing there.
Yeah, currently, the goal, the desire of NCDOT is for a traffic circle there. Yes, and that will help facilitate their goal of a Michigan left turn intersection at Odell School Road and Highway 73.
I think that's a very important distinction to make, that it's the DOT that's pursuing the traffic circle in the Michigan left turn, which if you don't understand what that is, that means going down one way, turning around, and coming back the next without actually taking a left turn across traffic. So, and just as a side note, the road improvements includes the little, the ditch work, storm drainage that you have to do in gravel, the road widening and grading, stone subbase, asphalt, and the overlay striping part. So that's when he says road, and the turn lane, the decel lane, and the left turn, that's what all is encompassed in that little bit. And you all may have known that. I just want to make sure that you had, there's multiple things there. So with that, we'll come to, or go to Mr. Harrison.
Thank you. So the state wants to put in a rotary or a turn circle, even though there is a significant amount of industrial traffic that goes up and down 73 and in that area. I mean, it's the only artery to speak of through that part of the county. I mean, when I obviously am no expert, but when I think of turn
Traffic
configurations like that, I think of a residential section where relatively small cars are going around relatively slowly, as opposed to industrial trucks and 18-wheelers and things like that, which is the normal traffic for Highway 73 quite frequently. But the state is okay with doing that? I mean,
I
don't mean to second guess the state. They know what they're doing, but I'm just saying seems to be a high probability of something turning over and messing up the whole traffic in the whole area.
Right. So with the Michigan left turn concept, where you would be doing a U-turn, what works here, because of the proximity to our desired entrance and folks across the street's desired entrance, is that a traffic circle could replace that U-turn. So that's number one. Number two is the state is looking at the long-range projections and the long-range use of the road and what that road is going to look like in the future. So with that, they are trying to plan for the future. They are looking at a multi-lane traffic circle, one that will be set up and ready, for when Highway 73 gets improved, whenever that is, 10, 15, 20 years in the future. This traffic circle would be already designed to handle that improvement that happens and the volume that's going to happen at that time. Does that volume exist now, or does that need exist now for a multi-lane traffic circle? That's certainly something that could be discussed. But right now, that's what the state is looking at, and that would be really the requirement of the developers. We are considered a developer, so that's where we are right now. That I won't say that that whole situation is finalized, but that's where it's headed right now.
Does this sheet do a good job in your estimate of covering any contingencies, or what other late arriving expenses might we encounter? I'm sure there's a technical term for that, but a third, two-thirds
Right.
toward the end of the project. Does this sheet seem to cover the likelihood of, we don't know what we don't know. We can't
Right.
necessarily anticipate what could happen or things that might occur, but how good of a projection of the future is this
So the-
15 million price tag?
Right, so the contingency is at 3%, which includes our allowances to help make that amount. I would say that that's a minimum amount, and it does not include the cost of the traffic circle. So the traffic circle, or if the traffic circle goes away and it's traditional left-hand turn and right turn deceleration lanes, it doesn't include that, so that we would have to come back.
So in effect, the county will be paying for the traffic configuration there. I mean, when we say we mean the county.
If it's the full-blown multi-lane traffic circle, we do think that we have some participation from adjacent property owners. So that's good.
Okay.
But that's not finalized.
Still a negotiation about the traffic
Right?
pattern or configuration.
Yeah,
Okay.
if we back up and just do, and are allowed to do left turn lane and right turn deceleration lane, that most likely is going to be mostly or all of our cost. And that if it works out for the developer on the to the north of us, then there could be some sharing opportunities there for cost.
Okay. And so for the site itself, do we feel that this projection or this estimate is fairly close to what the final price tag of the whole place will be? I mean, again, within the best crystal ball we have.
It's very, yes, I think it's reasonable.
Okay. I mean, because I'll get a certain figure in my head and I'll want to stick to it given, I mean, except for completely unknown situation.
Right.
It's my first ride on the construction train, so to speak.
So the unknowns with this property are that, it was developed before, and it was an old site. What we don't know is what was there before, and what we don't know is what's under the ground. So the demolition project that's wrapping up right now has been an attempt to identify and remove, everything that we knew about, with underground utilities and underground structures. But that, it had to be on a map, it had to be on a drawing, for us to know about it. And whether there were things that were constructed over the years and, decades, and they weren't, put on a drawing anywhere, and then the structure went away, and there's footings or anything like that, that's very possible. So this is not, this is not a green site. So we certainly have those opportunities.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Mr. Shue?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, this is a big project, and it's one of the first one. Matter of fact, it is the first school that the four that was just recently elected a couple years ago are taking part in building. And so one of the things that I've noticed just by listening to the comments that's been made, that some of the board members, that the newer board members may not know, but a number of years ago, the Cabarrus County Schools Board of Education, working along with facilities maintenance, construction folks, and the county, come up with what we refer to as construction standards. And the construction standards is a document that spells out what the schools have, should have, and need, and that type thing. And so, Dave, I think it would be good for the board members, once again, to get a copy of that construction standard. So when you look at the building only, you think of four walls with all the configuration and everything. But basically, there's a lot more to it than that, and so that, and also with the site only, as you mentioned, about the traffic circle and the left turn only, and all the other things, I would assume that curbing and guttering and all of that's part of it, paving and underground services, all of that's part of that. I'm assuming water, of course, we got water there, but you still got to run it to, you can't run it to where it was.
That's correct.
And obviously it's tore up now anyway, probably. But there's so much more in depth to this that the newer board members would really need to get as soon as possible, in my opinion, to make a good analysis of this. And as you and I had talked earlier, I think you mentioned on the building only, the square footage cost was like 147, I think you said.
Yes.
And my memory, it's been a long time since we opened an elementary school, but if my memory serves me correct, that's only a few dollars off from what it was when we opened A.T. Allen and also Patriots. It's only maybe a few dollars difference from what it was then. And I think that the only really fair way to get a cost on a building for square footage is, when you compare apples to apples. You can't throw the site development, you can't throw all these other things in there and say that that's what it costs per square foot, because as I mentioned to you earlier, every site's different. Some may not require as much, some may require a lot more, and therefore it inflates or deflates the cost per square footage of the building. So if we look at the building only of $13,204.7 million there, and then you get your 89,700 and some odd square feet for $147 a square foot, that's really not bad. That's really not bad at all when you consider it's been 6.5, 7 years since we built an elementary school. The inflation, and then of course, as you mentioned in one of your remarks about the bid climate, obviously, things are better now than they were, and so we had good bid climates before, but I think that's a good bid there. A question on the traffic circle that you keep referring to, is that the same thing as a roundabout?
Yes.
A roundabout.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've got two of the roundabouts that I know of in Concord. One's on Cabarrus Avenue there at the Martin Luther King Memorial, and it seems to work pretty good. That was the first one we had, and then we got the new one out at Popper Tent out there at the Diverging Diamond, about before you get to the Diverging Diamond, and it serves several purposes. Obviously, the communities on either side of the main road that you're on has a way of getting in and out without a traffic light. And so, in my opinion, it would serve us well to try to promote the traffic circle. And, the traffic circle or roundabout, same thing, in this project. Because I remember many years ago attending a meeting where that Popper Tent was going to become a boulevard of some sort. I can't recall the exact details, but it was multi-lane, and had a median with landscaping and all of that, and that was part of a plan many years ago, and I'm assuming that plan is still part of DOT's thinking process. But anyway, overall, I'm well pleased with it. But on the alternates, Dave, unless you or someone could convince me, I would not want to do alternate 2 or B in your here, the glazed. That's $66,800. I wouldn't want to support that myself, because I think what we have done in the past has worked well. We don't have big issues with it, and my philosophy is if it's not broke, let's don't try to fix it. And so I'm thinking that 66.8 that we can use somewhere else. And one of those that I would like to see us do is I would like to see us add the bleachers. Put the bleachers back in there, because that is when you do have community events that come in, where are all those folks going to sit? You got to have somewhere for the community to sit besides the floor, and are bringing in and out chairs all the time, which is a real hassle. Plus, it's pretty rough on the floor too.
Right.
But if you got bleachers, you can push them back up against the wall, pull them back out when you use them. And so, rather than spending the 66.8, I'd rather see us spend this 22 and then maybe save.
Okay, so the bleachers are in the base bid. So by doing nothing with that bid alternate, the bleachers stay.
Okay.
So we weren't recommending accepting it because Actually, accepting the bid alternate would mean deleting.
Oh, okay,
the
so that
bleachers.
is going to be part of, we're going to have
They're
them,
going to
okay.
keep them.
Okay,
Yeah, the
well, that's
recommendation is
good.
to keep the bleachers.
Well, I just misunderstood that because I know that we do need the bleachers. You know, my understanding was we was going to be doing 2, 6, and 2, 3, and 6, and this obviously is number 9, I believe. But if it's included,
Well,
good.
it's a deletion. So if you don't
Oh, I
accept
see.
it, it's
Okay, I'm with
staying
it.
in.
Okay, so in
Yes.
other words, so
it's
the
a
bid-
negative number. so
Instead
if
of
you accept it.
the 15,725, it'll be 22,000 less than that, or is that already built in that number?
It's built into the number because we were recommending keeping the bleachers, which kept the price at the same.
Okay, all right. But now, in the 66.8 that's also part of the 15,725. That's part of one of the alternates that you want.
Yes.
I think that, and I'm sorry to jump in, but if you go back to the top of the page, if you see number 5 is 15,884.2, that's got the wall tile that you want to remove, but it also has the bleachers. Because see, what he's writing is recommended alternates.
Okay.
And they're not recommending that we delete the bleachers, so the bleachers are in there. They are recommending that we do the tile, so the tile is in that number. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So the tile 66.8 would come out of this. It would come out of this.
If you do not want to take the tile, that number is reduced by 66.8.
Right, that's right, it comes out. So instead of 15.8, it would be 15.82 or somewhere thereabout. Well, and that's just my little bit of input on it. And like I say, we just got this information today at 3 o'clock to look at, and so we hadn't had really a lot of time to smoke it over too much. But overall, though, I'm well pleased with what has happened. With the progress that we've made, and the school site selection and all was good. I just have one other question, and Kelly, you might have to answer this one for me, Kelly Klutz. We were given $1.5 million for land. I believe at some point the county designated $1.5 million for land. All right, we only spent like $750,000, somewhere thereabouts. The other $750,000, does that go back to the county? Where is that money at? And the reason I'm asking that is because there was some confusion about that whenever it came up to the vote that they had here a few weeks ago on the 94 something. We wasn't asking for more money. Obviously, we were asking them to switch from one side to the other, one line item to another line item. Mm-hmm. And somehow or another that land savings came in there.
The county's allocated us $17.5 million, and the $1.5 million is in that $17.5 million number. So the $1.5 million was individually allocated initially, but now is a part of that 17.5, and we have since moved the excess of the 1.5 that we didn't spend for land into other categories.
When you say other categories, can you elaborate just a little bit?
I can. I have that here. So we moved, we did a budget amendment back some time ago. I'm looking.
I vaguely remember it, Kelly, but I can't.
We just moved it into the categories into which we thought we of course at the time submitted a budget to the county for $19.5 million.
Right.
And we only were funded for $17.5 million. So we were moving the additional funds that were allocated for land into the categories that we were going to spend first, like architect, engineering, and those type things. We still were short in the other areas, but we were trying to put the funds in the areas in which we needed the funds immediately.
Okay. All right. Now, so if we were asking for 19.5 to start with, we ended up with 17.5. And based on the numbers that we have tonight, we're about 2.9 million short, which is 900,000 more than we thought.
Correct.
906, 992.
Correct.
Yeah. So see, I think, and that goes to show, guys, that for Royal Oaks replacement in sometime and whenever that comes, you see what's on the bond referendum, and you see what we're facing at this elementary school here. And it's like what we've said all along. We've been shortchanged on all three of these schools. This one as well. And this was a cash school, I believe. This was one they wanted to pay cash for. We asked for 19.5. They gave us 17.5, and it's going to cost us $20 million, a little over $20 million. So anyway, that's all I have, and I'm sure between now and next week we'll have some more things to come up. Thank you for your help, Kelly, and Dave, if you can help us get that construction standards together for these newer guys, it would sure be of a big help. What comes with this package, what comes with site development, what we get, so to help them better understand it.
Yeah, the construction standards are on our website, so
Okay.
it is available. However, I would say that we really do need an effort in updating the construction standards. It's been several years. Many things have continued to increase. Technology is just is a fantastic example of where we really need to address with the construction standards.
Thank you, Mr. Shue. And just as a side note to the numbers that you were laying out, we were 4.6% off is what we were off with our 19.545 was the number we asked for. So we were off 4.6%. So, Mr. Shoemaker? Oh, and that's without discussing, with it really, I haven't dug through the numbers or whatever. I'm just taking the numbers that we got. Not that they're wrong, but just at face value without really digging through them. So, just on the surface, and that's taking the allowances that they're recommending. So we may not do that, but just at full face value, it's 4.6%.
And if you also take in consideration, if we had used the full 1.5 million, that's another 750,000 that we would be expending that we are not. If you spent the full 1.5 and we didn't do that, well, I guess you put it in there. I got myself confused on it, but bottom line is we spent 750,000. We had 1.5 allocated, but we'll be using it though for other categories, as Ms. Klutz said. So
That's correct.
So it'll work. So it'll work out.
The other point to consider or remember that the budget amendment we did earlier, the 95,000, this number would be bigger than it is now had we not transferred that money and done the change order. So don't forget that piece either. So it'd be off. It'd be another 600 grand, I think, is what we had projected. So, without further ado from me, Mr. Shoemaker.
Mr. Burnett, now, as we look at the building costs, I'm going to go through a file that was sent to us today about the Northwest Elementary School as of September 25th, one that Ms. Klutz put together for us. And in the first grouping, it's the construction subtotal. You see the building and equipment rental, construction, road construction, site development, tech infrastructure, and utility extensions. Is it safe to say that all of those things are a part of the $776,000? So all those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 categories of costs, we could safely say are probably represented by the building and site and allowances.
The building and the site, yes.
And that includes our retention pond and any other,
Yes.
any kind of
Erosion
walls
control.
that we have to pick up or anything like that.
Right. Now the cost that you're looking at, the Northwest sheet, now that also includes the demolition cost. That also includes the asbestos abatement cost. That also includes,
in the
I think that's it, yes.
in those first 6 items, they're all
Yes.
included in those?
Yes.
All right, so that's where those miscellaneous expenses to date and all that come from. Okay.
Yes.
And basically, because we made a philosophical decision to go to a 3.5, we saved approximately $700,000. Then when we pushed the date, we saved some additional monies. How much did we save by relaxing the date a little bit?
Well, by being aggressive, with the date, we had saved about $800,000 was the estimate.
So it's about $1.5 million that we've saved overall, estimated.
And we were conservatively saying 1.4 million, but yeah, our numbers were up at 1.5.
Okay. How many square feet is this facility?
As bid, base bid, it's 89,000, about 89,400. We do have the gym allowance when talking about the Cabarrus County Schools construction standards. We were following that for the space standards. And fortunately, we had a meeting with Parks and Rec and just confirmed, what the scope there was. And we really had everything except one thing, and that was that they wanted a high school basketball-sized court. So we needed to add 7.5 feet, to the length of the gym. So as part of the allowance, we did accommodate that. So the square footage would increase, and so the increase is shown on the allowances, but the base bid, when you take that base bid prior to the allowances, is at the 89,400 square foot number.
Okay. So it's 89,400 square feet, and then plus the 7.5 feet times whatever that.
Right, and that's an additional 450 square feet, and just so you know, at that space, that's probably in the neighborhood of $220 a square foot.
Okay. Yes, and that's on the bid tab. It shows a $100,000
That's correct.
allowance in the bid tab.
That's right.
All right. When you were talking about an escalation factor in number 4 perspective, what was your escalation factor that you were using?
Help me catch, let me.
Perspective, under perspective.
Oh,
number
yes,
4.
okay, number 4. 3.5%.
3.5. Okay.
Yeah, and it was, by the bid date of those projects. So one of those projects was 19 months out, another was 17 months out, and the third one from memory was 14 months out.
I'm sorry, what was the factor? I was going to ask that same question.
3.5%.
3.5? Okay.
Yeah,
Go
on
ahead.
perspective. Okay. All right, so on the contingencies, your 3% is of the total 15,884, 200?
Yes.
Or is it of something else?
It was of the recommended
So
bid
it's,
alternate
if
amount.
we add, well, you're just saying whatever we decide for number 5, whatever that is, because that includes the allowances and recommended ultimates, whatever that number actually comes out to, we want to do a times 1.03, that would be the official amount of the project. 0.103, 103%, and that would give us the project plus the contingency.
Yes, yes. Now, we do have some allowances, that many of those allowances, certainly we can, again, if we want to be frugal, we can say that came out to $157,000, as bid. So it would be the 319,000 of, I think that resulted in about 319,000. I think at 3%, it was in the neighborhood of 470 some odd $1,000.
Yes.
476.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to find out how you got there. So whatever we revise the total down to, then we'll have to add a 3% to that total, and then that will give us our contingency. Just want to make sure I'm on the same page. On the number 1 geothermal, you and I had several conversations, and I've had some conversations with some members of Duke Power, and we're trying to look at grants and other monies that may be available that could help reduce the payback period. So that we could keep that as a part of the contract, even though we wouldn't be obligated. They could provide us a date to say that you have to tell us whether you're going to do this by this and this date. If you don't, that's fine. If you do, then, you would have to come up with the money.
The initial thought on, the drop dead date, for a decision is about 60 days.
60 days from acceptance of the contract.
That should be the case, yes.
Okay. And on number 2, on B, bid alternates B, number 2, glazed tile, you anticipated a savings for not painting the areas that you're going to put the glazed tile at $22,200. How many times did you anticipate painting, and does that include labor and materials and?
It does include labor and materials. It was using a 3.5% rate, and it was on a 5-year painting cycle. And again, it only included the specific area where the actual tile was. We included no benefit of if the area was unreachable, and we wouldn't have to paint it anyway because it wouldn't have had any scuff marks or anything like that. It didn't include any of that. So that was an extremely conservative approach.
So you were just looking at repainting the wainscoting for lack of
Everything above the tile, and that's minimum 5 foot and higher above the finished floor.
And that is, one thing on the LED lighting, is that going to be more of a natural lighting? Because, LEDs can come in some very extreme.
They can be scary. Yes, we certainly would be getting as warm an appearance as we can get.
And did you have a lumens that you were trying to achieve in the classrooms that the architect had spec'd out?
Yeah, that would be in the specifications, and I can't tell you that one. I'd have to look.
I just wondered if they would be any brighter than the T8s, or if they, do they tend to be provide a little more light than T8 lighting? Or?
So with LEDs, you do have the opportunity to redesign and have less fixtures. But really, this didn't do that. This was a one-to-one replacement.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker. Ms. Carpenter, do you have any questions for Mr. Burnett?
Well, mine's very basic. I think I'm kind of in the same boat as Lynn was in. I do not think definitely with us kind of being over budget, and we do not have the glaze wall tiles in our other schools. With the savings for not painting being only $22,200 over a 30-year period, I just can't see the payback's not good enough for me. If it was really a lot more, I might could see it. But with us not having it in other schools, and then the possibility of breakage and what it would cost. I mean, I've got tile around my bathroom. I know what I have to go through when I have to replace just one thing of it. I'm thinking, I don't think it's worth it. And it's worked for us very well with the other ones. And like I say, the payback's not good enough, I don't think, for me. So I wouldn't see that as something that I could say we could add with us already being over. The other ones with the LED, I know that Duke Power and all of them keep telling me that if I change those bulbs out, I'm going to save me a bunch of money. And the payback's a lot better. And I know they've changed those other T things out, so I know they're probably going to tell me in another 2 or 3 years you better get rid of those T8s. So I suppose we better change out that. So the payback's quicker on that, so I suppose I could go with that. So I think that with that, we've done as much as we possibly can. So.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Carpenter. And you can go ahead and get ready. They're going to tell you to go to a T5 if you want to get ready. Mr. Walter?
All right. Go over again the configuration savings that Barry had said we'd save $700,000 by configuring it.
The grades to 3-5.
So these bids you would have anticipated them to be $700,000 more?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because of the square footage size?
Our square footage would have been greater. Plumbing costs would have been greater. Most likely, it would have been greater. What we're able to do with going with the grades 3, 4, and 5 configuration is we won't have kindergarten, we won't have pre-K and first grade. Those are larger size classrooms in the neighborhood of 1,200 square foot net, and with restrooms and with exterior doors.
Okay. I'm just looking at the bid tab, and I do appreciate this is one of the nicest ones I've seen with the colorized and very easy to read and very easy to see where the high bids are and the low bids are. There was one on number 10 under what was it, China Construction of 29,000? Does that mean they're paying us if we
Yeah, it was a
delete?
good catch on your part. Yeah, that should be a deduct. I didn't get a chance to look at their actual bid, but I don't recall.
It doesn't
that being
change,
a
it doesn't
positive.
change any, okay, and then you had these, again, these alternatives. The first 7 were adding to our costs, and the last 3 would be for savings if we were looking for savings.
Yes.
But you've not recommended that we deduct any of these things, and you've recommended that we take 3 of the 7. Is that correct?
We were recommending acceptance of alternate number 2, number 3, number 6.
Okay, so if you add those 3 alternates that you're recommending on top of the base bid, it's still, which increases what the cost by 0.5%, it's still less than the next lowest bidder. Is that correct?
Yeah, with any of the different scenarios, the beam construction was the low bidder.
Okay, well, I mean, so we're still under what the base bid was for any of the other ones. What do we know about beam construction? Have they done work here in Cabarrus County? Where are they from? What are they?
They're from Cherryville, North Carolina, which is Gaston County.
Do they specialize in schools, or what are they?
They've done a great number of schools. I know they've done work I've actually had them on several projects in Gaston County and Union County. I know they do work in those and South Carolina. And
You've had experience within timetables, delays,
Yes.
change orders, that type of thing?
it's a good company. They've been around for a long time. If I recall, I think it was its roots were a family-owned company. I can only guess that it's still that way, but not positive about that.
Okay, well, that makes me feel better about the company. And then again, with the budget, we've had so many numbers floating around, it's very difficult for me to determine, was this on budget or under budget? I mean, here you're saying that if we deducted this site development cost here, or again, referring to that spreadsheet that was given to us today as of September 25th, there's estimated funds requested is what we anticipated it to be. It looks like it would be exactly on what the bid is. Is that correct, or am I?
Well,
Is this overbid?
You have the original budget, but there have been expenses. We've certainly have contracted for the demolition. We've contracted for the abatement, the environmental. So certainly what the original budget has been decreased, and the remaining budget, which is on the far right-hand column, is the number to look at. And if you're looking at the construction group, which is the top, and you see the construction subtotal, the balance there is almost 13.3 million.
Okay, so that is over budget, or is that?
That is the available funds.
Okay.
So we
Our
have-
architect said that, we anticipate this building to cost X amount. Did it cost that, or is it above or below what we were anticipating it to be?
Their target, the expected cost that they had was higher than that. It was 14. Yeah, the target number for base bid was 14.6 is what they were expecting that to come in at.
That was before the configuration change, or is that?
No, that's after. It's after, and that translates to the 15.5.
Okay. And then this contingency amount that we're talking about, that is funds that if we don't spend goes back to the county, correct? So how much more are we asking the county for?
If you look down, yeah, under funds needed, which is the third group down, in number 4, the additional funds request is expected to be, and that was assuming bid alternates, and it sounds like you're probably going to change that, but at that point it was 2.9 million.
Okay, I mean, I'm a little confused where we have a startup dollar, and I think, didn't we put that in our annual budget as well? The startup costs?
The startup funds are,
Or is this different?
They're on the spreadsheet, the Northwest spreadsheet, and it's down lower. I think that's at the soft cost, if I can get my hands on it.
Is that a different cost than the cost that we had in our budget? Or what is that for? What is startup costs?
That's more on the
Pencils and paper and pencil sharpeners.
Is that equipment in front of?
We don't really buy those anymore, but custodial equipment,
That's not part of the equipment and furniture listing, or is that?
The custodial equipment would be in furniture and equipment. The startup cost is going to be more on the school side, and it's going to be supplies and things like that they need.
reusable stuff. The F&E is the fixture and equipment that's going in, the chairs and the desks and the tables.
Okay.
This is custodial equipment, supplies, toilet paper, paper towels, all that kind of stuff.
And you just categorize that as
Cleaning
startup.
material.
You just categorize it as startup. Okay.
Yeah, well,
All right.
yeah.
Okay. I think I understand. And that's all I have for now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Walter. Well, we've beat that up pretty good, which is good. That's a lot of good questions to ask. I want to. Okay, there's one quick thing I want to talk about the tile for just a minute, and I want to ask Mr. Berg, who happens to be here and is an architect and has done work in CMS. I just don't want to say something that's not correct. So, at CMS, their typical spec is CMU interior walls, where ours is drywall and the exterior CMU. Do I remember that correctly?
At CMS, their standard spec is CMU everywhere. For you guys, our experience has been CMU in the corridor walls where you have all the traffic, and then drywall on the demising walls between classrooms and on the exterior wall. The thought being those are always supervised and you don't have the potential for damage and vandalism.
And that's what I kind of remember. What would make more sense to me, instead of doing the glazed tile everywhere, would be to only do it on the drywall areas, because the CMU, and everybody, we keep throwing that term around, it's a concrete masonry unit. 8-inch block is what it is. It's block. Basic construction on a high school or middle school or school, all the walls. What Todd has said, that at CMS, every interior wall is CMU. Well, we don't do it that way. There is some savings there. Metal stud framing and drywall is cheaper than putting up CMU. The downside is drywall gets beat up a little bit more and it's not quite as durable. So the thought process of putting something at the wainscot level is, call it chest high, to help protect it. And it's glazed tile. Just think of a hard ceramic tile with a baked on glaze. It's not going to chip. I mean, you got to really want to get it off or damage it for it to damage. But be that as it may, I guess I would like, instead of saying yay or nay on the 66, I probably wouldn't want to do it, but I would be curious to know what the number would be if we only put it on the drywall and then left the CMU alone. If that's something either you can do a takeoff and just kind of give me a round number, or if Beam can give you the number, I'd be interested in to know what that would be. So does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. Mr. Shoemaker read off whatever that Northwest spreadsheet was, and he did not list tech infrastructure, but it's listed on the sheet. Is it in there or is it not in there?
Tech infrastructure, such as conduit and things like that, that's in the bid, and it's reflected in the pricing.
It's in the bid and reflected in the price. So that the line item that we had was $300,000. And is that all the tech infrastructure that we need, or whatever the?
Well, I said the 6 items.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I thought you read them off, and I just didn't hear that one.
Yeah.
I just
So-
said all 6 items, and that's what it told me.
So there's an additional technology account, and that's technology which is part of furniture and equipment. And that has a budget account of $600,000. And,
Okay.
that's something certainly that Kelly would want that.
Well, I guess I just want to make sure that we're covered and we've got what we think we know. I just want to make sure the board understands where we are with what we're putting in the building.
Okay, so it is my understanding that the data and the phone are not in that infrastructure, which I would consider that infrastructure. So we've got that's going to cost some money for that. And then on top of that, you've got servers and switches. Now, I consider that not necessarily infrastructure, but that is a huge piece that's part of that network that needs to come in. When I see the $600,000 on the second part, I'm thinking there hardware, and I'm thinking the smart boards, or if we go with the TVs, I'm thinking the computers, all of those pieces in the 600,000. So we need to make sure that we have ample money to cover those things.
Okay, well, here would be my suggestion then. The budget line item numbers came from this construction department. So you guys maybe just get together and do a true up and make sure that the information that the board is given, you're comfortable with what's included, and the rest of us are comfortable with what the number represents. Does that make sense? Okay, fantastic.
Mr. Chairman, let me ask another
Yes.
question or two. I hope I don't interrupt what you're wanting to do, but what about buses for this school? Are we going to have to get more buses, or where are we at on that? I'm just curious, is that going to be in another category in addition?
That's not Dave's department.
Well, I mean, I know, but where does that come in?
Those buses were requested in our capital outlay.
Okay, that was part of the 12
budget.
buses
Now,
or the 18?
Yes, that was.
Okay.
Although I did notice that the system next to us did request them as a part of their school budget, the new school construction budget. And so if this board would like to start doing that as a request, I'm certainly open to that. That's not something that we've done. I understand that it was normal practice for us to make a request in our capital outlay budget, so that's what we've done. But if you, as a board, would like to start submitting your buses as part of new construction, I'm certainly open to do that.
Well, see, and that was partly the reason that I brought it up, is because it took a couple of years to develop the construction standards, because I can remember there were times that we'd build schools and we had to have as a playground as an alternate.
Mr. Shu,
Can you believe-
in this case, I believe that the buses will be stopping at both schools, so I'm not sure if it's a...
Well, see, I don't know how many it'll take, but obviously you're going to be having that many more students too, so I don't know how many it'll take, but as for my own self, whenever you build a school, it needs to be a complete package. We don't need to have to go back and piecemeal like we've done in the past, and that was supposed to be one of the objectives of devising the construction standards, was when you open a school, you've got everything you need there. And just like when you build a home these days, you've got your things that's built in, you got your smoke alarm, your fire alarms, and all other kind of alarms and electronics. It's all in there. You walk in, it's a turnkey job. And that's really the way the schools need to be, because going back after the fact, it's next to impossible. And that's why some of the older schools, they get left out. They don't have the same opportunity to get things. And so it just makes it better to do it all at the same time. And if we couldn't get the buses on the capital outlay budget request, maybe this might be something that we could do when we build schools, is just build the buses into it as part of the package for building the new school. That's my take on it.
Thank you, Mr. Shu. And thanks, Kelly. Dave, I've just got one last question. And when we started out on this, what we did, and we came to the conclusion that the spec level we were trying to hit was Patriots Elementary School. So as we went through the process and we looked at the plans and we did this, getting here, in your dealings with the architect now, you've looked at the bids, you've got construction drawings, whatever, is that the spec level that these bids are based on?
It's, I'd say that it's in between that spec and the prototype. So when we decided on the prototype, a lot of stuff was coming with the prototype, so it's in between the two.
Great, fantastic. All right, well, that will be on action. Dr. Phillips?
Yeah. One thing that we haven't talked about yet was this one sentence that says final completion will be approximately 15 months after a notice to proceed is issued to the contractor. So November's the earliest, so it's December, January, February. So February 2016 is now the earliest. So we're talking about opening up the school. So we're not going to make, we're not going to be using that school in the 2015, 2016 timeframe. And I'm wondering, did any of the other bidders propose to build it faster?
We determined and specified what the time frame was. So the substantial completion date is 14 months. The final completion date is 15 months. Substantial completion is defined as the time that the owner can use the building for its intended purpose. So at 14 months, we can be occupied in that school. It's just the remaining punch list items that need to occur after that.
But having said that, then that means if we want to get in January of 2016, we have to issue a notice to proceed next month, which means we have to get a commitment for this remaining 2.8, 2.9 million from the county commissioners by next month, or we won't have a school for the second semester of the 2015-2016 school year.
Certainly makes moving in that much more difficult, yes.
Yep, that is correct. Okay, board members, we will move on. I hate to do this, but at the chairman's discretion, we're going to take a 5-minute break because we've been sitting here for 3 hours on top of the 6 hours I sat in my car today. So we're going to stretch for 5 minutes and we'll reconvene. Okay, board members, we're back from a short break, and we will move along to 4.07, NCSBA Magna Award, and we will welcome John Basilis to the podium. Hello, sir. How are you?
Okay, thank you. I'm here on behalf of myself and Dan Meehan, who's ill today. We were asked to review the Magna Award application for innovative approaches to solutions that are developed by local school boards. And the submission that we wanted to present for your consideration was an award related to the use of vans for the McKinney-Vento transportation services. As you know, the history of McKinney-Vento in our district in transporting students has historically been to attach routes to the end of established yellow bus routes. And while this seemed to work effectively when our numbers were relatively low, when the economic downturn happened, our numbers of homeless students increased dramatically, and we needed a different approach. And so it was last year that the board and Mr. Meehan, I guess, collectively went in to purchase the vans that we have, and that created an opportunity for us to be able to better serve our McKinney-Vento students. So that was the thinking behind, as I understand it, the thinking behind the award. And I invite board members who might know more about it to certainly add to the discussion in just a moment. But in my conversation with Mr. Meehan in the time since this award was considered, one of the things that he pointed out is we are the only LEA in the state of North Carolina that's doing this, that's using van transportation as an alternative. And so if the intent of submission for such an award is for knowledge transfer for your peers and other boards of education throughout the state to sort of look at this and say, hey, this might be an innovative approach that will well serve our students and well serve our constituency, it would be certainly something that'd be worth attracting that kind of positive attention from your colleagues, I believe. So those are the positives to applying for such an award at this time. I'd be remiss if I didn't share though that with that I would like to make certain that any submission that we make needs to be intentional about not bringing undue attention to our homeless students. One of the ways that we're very successful in serving our students is we're discreet. There's not a lot of extra attention. There's no amplification of the fact that our students are homeless, and they're able to maneuver about their school day without anybody really knowing that this is what's going on in their life, that they're experiencing this lack of housing. And so I just would say that any submission for an award would have to be really intentional about doing what we can to protect our students from any unwanted attention.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that was your pinch hitting. for Mr. Meehan, so that was a job well done. We'll call it a good solid single. How
Great,
about that?
thanks,
In
I'll take it.
In light of the baseball playoffs going on.
Excellent, I'll take it.
So, board members, this is a national award. This is not NCSBA. This is the National School Board Association. So, I think the point that John made about not bringing undue attention is well made. I think this is a program certainly that warrants attention, the program, not the individuals in it. And there is the old saying, if somebody else doesn't blow your horn, you might as well blow your own horn. So we think we're doing a good job here. This is something that can be sent, and hopefully we'll get recognized. And if we'll have just questions or comments, but we'll start with Dr. Phillips.
Okay, great.
Right. I remember that last year, Kannapolis City Schools actually got a Magna Award, and they got it because of their innovative use of cooperative IT effort with the county, which, by the way, we were doing the same thing, but we didn't bother to apply for an award, so we didn't get it. So I would like to, I think we have several programs in this school district that are worthy of national recognition, but of the ones that I've heard about since I've been on the board, I think this is the clearest one. Partly because it has a dramatically quick payback, and in an era when we are scratching for every penny we can get, this is one to do it. McKinney-Vento is a federal law, so therefore it is something that all school districts in the country are dealing with, and so if we can show all school districts a way to reduce their costs, I think that's good. I would also encourage you not to limit it to the transportation aspect of the program. I think, John, you have implemented some other efficiencies and also outreach to bring in community organizations so that we are not just, our McKinney-Vento program is not just transportation. It is recognizing that these students are going through a lot of upset in their life, and that they need some extra hands to say, hey, it's going to be all right.
Right.
Here's how we can help. So I would just encourage you not to limit it just to the transportation aspect, although that is clearly the big cost savings.
Right, great, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. And board members, keep in mind, I guess John is pinch hitting. So there may be a question or something that if he doesn't know, that's okay. We'll move along,
Right.
and we'll get the email answer maybe this week as Dan's putting together the actual application. And I'll ask the first question. Do you know when we'll actually have the application, or when the application is due?
I don't know when the application is due, but I do know from my conversation with Dan, we thought it would be precipitous to okay, great. To complete an application without first discussing it, presenting to you just seemed completely contraindicated. So we didn't do that, of course. And the way that particular application is filed, from what I can tell, is it's an online application. And so it seems to be one that you click and submit. It doesn't seem to have a draft status. So it's not so once you have it loaded, you either submit it or you lose it, right? So so I do think, though, that Mr. Meehan and I have sort of gone back and forth on some text that we might consider for the application.
Fantastic. Mr. Harrison, do you have any comments?
Just along Dr. Phillips's lines, the McKinney-Vento program probably has a correlation to dropout prevention, or certainly the stress of that the children are going through in their lives, and the temptation to take the easy road out as opposed to sticking with it. And
Right.
McKinney-Vento sustains their the work they need to complete in the long term in their lives, so that they don't kind of succumb to the pressures of the short term situation they have. And if Kannapolis has put us on the map, all the better. Now the Magna Awards will know what zip code we're near by virtue of last year's award. Plus, if we're going to be the petri dish for the rest of the country to see how you've managed and operated our program here with the smaller buses, and therefore the savings that's, all the better. I'm delighted that we can show the rest of the country kind of the way forward in some of these things, especially when apparently few other districts have taken that kind of innovative and proactive approach to managing. What amount, approximately the McKinney-Vento program costs how much a year, give or take? I mean, I know it varies with price of fuel, oil, and that sort of thing.
With the sub-grant that we successfully received, we get about $30,000 every year for the sub-grant. And then we have a Title I set-aside that's required as well, which I believe that's somewhere in the area of $33,000 to $35,000 that's set aside. So that's a total of $65,000 in grant funding, Title I, and the sub-grant as well. The actual expenses, the biggest expenses, though, to the district come in the form of transportation, and that's one of the statistics that Dan and his staff shared with me prior to this meeting. What he said that the cost of operating the van transportation in 13-14 was $133,603.63.
Round that for me,
sure,
please.
so call it $135,000, as compared to $410,000, which would have been the cost had they been using yellow school buses. And so that's a savings of rounded here again to a little bit more than $250,000, according to Mr. Meehan and his team. And so again, the biggest expense is transportation.
And so if we won the award in our application, would we indicate that the award funds would be put toward one-time expenses, one-time costs of additional vans or something to that effect, as opposed to recurring expenses? Because I could be wrong, but I don't gather this is a recurring award. Is it a one-time, one-year kind of award? And
David, it says the award is $4,000 if you win it.
Okay.
Right. So it's not. It's not a tremendous award. It's probably more about more about the knowledge transfer for other districts to sort of get on board with this idea of putting some upfront costs that seem to, according to this financial information, seem to pay for themselves and result in more discreet and better service to students who really, really need it. So, it's probably less about the nominal amount of money, though $4,000 is nothing to sneeze at. In the scheme of things, it probably doesn't have nearly the same impact as the better service we have to our students.
But it would still be a great recognition for the work that you've got and the data and the empirical evidence that you have up to this date.
Yeah, that's really the transportation department. I mean, they work very hard and very efficiently on doing that. And our social work team, I think you've heard me talk about them. They're amazing people. We have so many hands in this. We have so many eyes and ears that care about all of our students, and especially our students that are in the greatest need. So I thank you for your comment. I can't accept it because there's too many other people doing too many good things, and it really is about their success in this, really.
If you've got a problem, it's that you're too humble. Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Mr. Shue?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wholeheartedly support the applying for the award, and I feel sure that we stand a very good chance to get it.
Okay.
Thank you for all you do, John.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Shue. Mr. Shoemaker?
I remember I was on the budget committee when we first saw this presented to us. It was the first actual potential ROI that I'd ever seen the school district bring forward that looked like we were going to do something in less than a year. And of course, we invested less than $100,000 in some vans and saved $250,000. So our payback was in less than a year, which was just extraordinary. What your team is doing with the McKinney-Vento program is amazing, and I think that needs to be part of the conversation, just like Dr. Phillips said, because when you and I shared earlier, right at the end of school, just talking about McKinney-Vento and where you've come and that type of thing, you know, you were telling me how quickly you're matriculating children through the process.
Right.
And I think, you know, when you look at the value to the child who's literally got no school to go to, nothing to do, the parents are struggling to try to keep a job or whatever, and the child is going sideways for 5 or 6 days. Now it's not 5 or 6 days, it's 1 or 2 days. And that's, and I'm sure the vans helped that process, but what you were doing also helped the process. So between the vans and then what you were doing, I think that has to be brought out. The learning curve and the way you were able to get the children into the schools and found and gotten rides, that's a huge story.
Yeah.
Because, and as we talked, it doesn't seem like the McKinney-Vento people are kind of in the other LEAs are really exchanging information about how fast they're matriculating people.
Right.
And I think that needs to be part of, you know, what's our goal?
Right.
Should we be getting together and setting processes up that allow us? And the vans gave us the tool to do this quicker than we could have ever done it if we hadn't gone to them. I think that they're a part of your success, but you're a part of our success. And I really appreciate what you've done and how you've collaborated with all the schools and the people there to bring them together.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I will say that the other, my colleagues that are school district liaisons from other districts, they always perk up and listen when I start talking about the vans. It's sort of a, well, how'd you do that? Kind of a look. And so I think some of it is receptivity of their boards and their directors as well.
Well, I just encourage, especially the piece on matriculating the kids, finding those kids and getting them a ride.
Yeah.
Getting them to and from point A and B and back home again with no parental intervention. Because the families that I got to deal with, the parental intervention, trying to get the child to the school, and at the same time they had a second shift job. And
Right.
I mean, that's huge stress when you're
Sure.
already don't even know where you live. You're in a nomadic adventure. And so that it's huge what you're able to do and
Yeah.
what the stress that does for those families. I think it's just a great story to include in your text. Thank you.
Well, we still have some challenges to overcome, but we're committed to improving all the time.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker. Ms. Carpenter?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for all the efforts in putting this through. When I did attend our national convention, it's amazing what we learn from others, and it's like these programs that we're presenting, and like you're presenting, the people will grasp a hold of it all across the nation and will pick up on this. And it's what it does for the children. You know, the stigma that these children have when the big yellow bus went into the parking lot.
Right.
And, you know, this gives them a little security. And, you know, it doesn't make them feel ashamed.
Right.
And so this gives them some security. Yeah. So I'm very proud that we're able to do it, but we couldn't do it without the help of people like yourself and all the other employees. Yeah. And we want to thank them for that. And so I'm very excited about it. And I'm like Mr. Shue, I think we've got a great chance of possibly winning this. And so I want to thank you for bringing this to us. And it is with honor, I think, that we're able to say, yes, go for it. And two, I think this is a great opportunity for us to share it with people all across the country. And I'm really excited about it. I know that other systems are going to see this and say, hey, this is a great idea. Why we come up with it? Because Cabarrus is great, and we know how to save money. And so this is just one of the good things. So hopefully we can come up with some other great ideas. Great. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank all the staff.
I will definitely thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Mr. Walter?
Are we still close to 300 students that we're serving?
At this time, I couldn't give you an exact number today, but that 300 number, it sort of builds as the year goes.
Yeah, I remember your presentation last year too.
Right.
This was around 300.
So that usually that tends to be a end of the year number. I wouldn't say that we're at 300 now. I would estimate that we're probably at about half of that, and maybe a little bit more than that.
How many vans do we have?
I think we have a total of 14 vans, according to Mr. Meehan. We have a total of 14 vans currently.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Phillips. There's a lot more than just the transportation involved. And part of this award, it says winning programs must be successful in the primary objectives of promoting the advancement of student learning, and keeping the kids in school is a huge part of that. So I think that needs to be a focus. I think the focus really just like you were talking about, the school staffs that you partner with, the child nutrition folks, the student services people, obviously the transportation folks, but also the community outreach that you do. All that is, I think, huge part of this program that we have here. It's, if you can duplicate that around the country, that's amazing. The difference it can have in the life of homeless students. So,
Sure.
I support it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walter. Thank you, board members, for all your comments. Or can I get a nod of the head for consent? Okay, fantastic. We will put that on the consent agenda, and we will move along.
Thank you.
To board member 4.09, board member attendance at the NC-SBA annual conference, and Ms. Monroe needs a head count of who's planning on attending. Barry, I'm trying to shortchange you on your hours. Okay, Barry Shoemaker went to the crisis drill at A.L. Brown High School on August the 20th and would like to submit those hours to the NC-SBA. Your chairman wholeheartedly agrees and recommends that we approve. Does anybody have a question or a comment? We got shaking the heads.
What
Yes?
did you see there, or what do they do?
Well, they did on August 20th, and it was in the paper. I think Jessica was there with me, and it was a warm day, and they had an active shooter drill. Now, there was an incident that had happened at A.L. Brown earlier in the school year where a young man had come on campus, and they were able to thwart it, but this time they had over 300 people involved, parents and teachers volunteered to be the students, and so they loaded up the school with people, and then they had the Kannapolis Police Department, the EMTs, the Kannapolis Fire Department, some of our sheriff's deputies were there. Dean Vernon was there, and actually ended up playing a major role. He was supposed to be a bystander, but they were a little shorthanded on people to do the drill because, something like this really does take it. So they dressed out, did SWAT team type activities. They had people getting shot and, having to play dead, and they were walking around with real guns, but they were taped off, and so no one's life was in danger, except the fact that they just went through the whole logistics of moving people out, moving injured in and out of the building, getting to the building and trying to access and use the process. When we have our next safety meeting, we hopefully will be able to get a download from Dean on that, and that's, I think that's something that we are working for even in this district to try to do a similar type drill. But there were a lot of learnings that came out of it, and that's what I want to share in our safety meeting as we go forward, things that we need to be looking for, that we can do, little things that we can do even now, and hopefully we can get a download from Kannapolis. I think the sheriff's deputies and all already have the download, and so it would be interesting to find out some of the facts of the activity and some of the learnings that they had during the process. But it's real interesting when you start getting all this activity going on and people get injured, and how do you get them out, and how do you keep people protected at the same time when you've got someone in there that has a gun and is wanting to do something ill to our children or to the people that are approaching the school to save them. So.
Thank you for that update. Everybody okay? Consent? Approve the hours? Okay. Thank you. And now we'll move on to 4.09, and we need a head count for attendance at the NC-SBA conference November 17th to 19th. I think the easiest way to do this, if you're unsure,
I'll just be there on Monday.
Okay, well, hang on. I'm gonna ask if Ms. Monroe can kind of take a count. And yay or nay, and will you go all 3 days? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Right now, I'm only counting on Monday, but if it's the voting happening on Tuesday, and I don't know if you need.
Yes.
If you need another person on Tuesday, I can be there, but right now I'm just committed to Monday.
Okay, David.
Monday and Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday. You're not going to go.
No, I'm gonna pass.
Yep. I'm planning on going Monday and Tuesday. However, what I'd like to do, when I won my seat in November 4 years ago, the previous board made arrangements and allowed for me to go even though I wasn't a sitting member. So I'd like to have my seat, I guess, or application as a placeholder in case we need to have somebody go. Then I wouldn't go. Well, I mean, I guess if I lose, I won't go, and that somebody new can go. I just want to be clear that somehow when you register, just kind of make it as a placeholder or however it worked, because I did go last time before I was sworn in. So I'd like somebody, if they're new, to be able to go. You going Monday and Tuesday? And you're not, Carolyn's not going. Rob's going just Monday. All right, well, we got a problem then. We'll move on to 4.10. Voting members, because the voting is on Tuesday. I guess my recommendation would be that, I mean, you know, obviously if either Carol's not reelected or I'm not reelected, we shouldn't be voting. Is what I was going to suggest, that the two of you guys and the two of you guys vote. But you're not going to be there on Tuesday, and you're not planning on being there Tuesday. So
I said I could be,
Can.
I can be there if you needed a fourth.
okay, so if we go Jeff and David and Barry as definite voting members, and you said you're not going to be there Tuesday? Okay, and you're not going at all.
You could have you could have whoever
Well, then,
is either a newly elected someone could potentially.
okay, well then I guess my spot will be the fourth voting member. And if I'm there, I'll vote, and if the new person goes, we'll get them credentialed and they can vote. All right, is all that clear as mud? Okay, fantastic. Well, that's it. Board members, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Harrison and a second by Mr. Walter. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? This meeting is now adjourned.